I moved into this small town in Oregon. I was sick of city life and thought a quieter place would be a good change. Got this cozy little house just outside of town, surrounded by woods. It was perfect, or so I thought. The first month was great. The town folks were friendly, and my work-from-home job gave me enough free time to explore the area. I spent my evenings gaming, trying out new recipes, and just chilling. Life was good. One night, around 11 p.m., I was in the middle of a Warzone match when I heard this weird noise outside. It was like a low, rumbling sound, like a growl mixed with the sound of something heavy dragging along the ground. At first, I thought it was some animal, maybe a deer or a bear. We get those around here. But this sound was different. It felt off. I paused the game, took off my headset, and just listened. The noise continued, but it seemed to be moving around the house. I wasn't about to go outside and investigate. No way. Instead, I peeked through the window. The moon was bright enough to see most of my yard, but there was nothing there. The sound had stopped too. I felt a little silly for being so freaked out, so I went back to my game. A few days later, it happened again. Same growling, dragging sound, but this time, it was closer. Like right outside my window. I turned off all the lights and peered through the blinds. Still, nothing. But I swear I felt something watching me. Every hair on my body stood up. My first thought was to call the cops, but what was I even gonna say? Hey, there's a weird noise outside my house? They'd think I was nuts, so I stayed inside, locked all the doors, and tried to sleep. Easier said than done. The following weekend, I had some friends over for a little get-together. We were sitting on the deck, enjoying some drinks and the cool night air. I didn't mention the noises because I didn't want to seem paranoid. But around midnight, we all heard it. That same low growl-like sound, followed by the dragging sound. My friends went silent, looking around confused. "What the hell is that?" one of them asked. I shrugged, trying to play it cool. Probably just some animal. But inside, I was freaking out. We all stayed on the deck, hoping whatever it was would just go away. After a few minutes, the noise stopped. My friends made jokes about Bigfoot, so we just laughed it off. The next day, I decided to do some research. I found a few urban legends about strange creatures in the woods, but nothing concrete. Most people dismissed them as just stories to scare kids, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it. A week later, things escalated. I was in my living room watching TV when I heard the noise again. This time, it was followed by a scratching sound at my front door. My heart pounded as I tiptoed to the door and looked through the peephole. Nothing, just darkness. I backed away and called my neighbor, Calvin, a retired sheriff. He came over with his flashlight and gun, ready to check things out. We searched the yard, the woods, everywhere. Nothing. No tracks, no signs of any animal. Just an eerie silence. Calvin looked at me, concerned. "If it happens again, call me. But be careful." I nodded, feeling a bit safer with him around. But that night, as I lay in bed, I heard it again. The growl, the dragging, the scratching. But this time, it was coming from inside the house. I instantly freaking freaked out. I crept downstairs. The noise was louder, coming from the basement. I wasn't about to go down there, so I did the next best thing. I locked the basement door and pushed a heavy dresser in front of it. Then I called Calvin. He came over and we both went down to the basement together. It was empty. No signs of anything. But the noise had stopped. The next day, I decided I'd had enough. I packed up my essentials and went to stay with a friend in town. I didn't go back to the house alone after that. I called a moving company, sold the place at a loss, and got out of there. To this day, I don't know what it was. Some locals think it was a bear or a mountain lion, but I've heard those sounds before. This was different. It felt wrong. I haven't had any strange experiences since I moved. If you're ever in Oregon and hear a strange growling and dragging sound at night, do yourself a favor. Stay inside and don't go looking for it. Some things are better left alone. This happened like 3 weeks ago, and I'm still losing sleep over it. I live in the burbs of Seattle, and I work night shifts at a 24/7 grocery store. which usually means I get home around 3 a.m. I was driving back home, blasting some late-night Spotify playlist to keep myself awake. The streets were dead empty, just the way I like it. As I'm getting close to my neighborhood, I noticed this weird shadow on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was just some trash or maybe a deer, but as I got closer, it looked different. I slowed down a bit, trying to make out what it is. It looked like a person, but way too tall and skinny, kind of hunched over. It was standing still. My brain's going into overdrive, trying to process what I'm seeing. Maybe it's some weird art installation, but like, who the hell puts that up in the middle of the night? Anyway, I ain't about to stick around and find out. I sped up, trying to ignore the goosebumps crawling up my arms. When I got home, I park in my driveway, and as I'm getting out of the car, I hear this weird-ass noise. It's like a mix between a whistle and a hum, super low and creepy AF. I froze, scanning the dark, empty street, but there's nothing. I hurry inside, lock the door, and try to shake it off. Maybe I'm just tired, right? I grab a snack and settle in front of my computer to game for a bit, hoping to distract myself. But the whole time I have this uneasy feeling like I'm being watched. Around 4:30 a.m., I'm deep into a game when my motion sensor lights outside flick on. I live in a pretty safe neighborhood, but still at this hour, it's weird. I peek out the window. There's nothing there. The lights are just on, lighting my empty driveway. But then, I notice something. The weird noise is back. That whistle hum sound, and it's coming from the backyard? I tiptoed to the back window, trying to keep my breathing steady. When I look out, my heart almost stops. There's that shadow again, standing right at the edge of my yard, just outside the reach of the motion lights. It's taller than before, and it's like it's swaying slightly. I don't move. I just stand there, watching it, waiting for it to do something. Then, the shadow finally moves. It steps back into the darkness and disappears. The noise stops too, just like that. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually, I forced myself to move, double-check all the locks, and try to calm down. The next day, I asked around the neighborhood, but no one saw or heard anything weird. I even checked online for any similar sightings, but there's nothing. Just a few random posts about strange noises in the area, but no one mentioned seeing anything. Now, every night when I come home, I can't help but look around, expecting to see that shadow again. So far, nothing, but the memory still freaks me out. I don't know what it was, and honestly, I don't want to know. I'm just hoping it was a one-time thing and that it doesn't come back. But if it does, well, I might just need to find a new place to live. I don't know if I believe in all this paranormal stuff, but what I saw that night, I can't explain it any other way. So, I live in San Antonio, Texas. My job's pretty chill, and I have a nice little house on the outskirts of town. I like to unwind after work by chilling in my backyard, just listening to music. One night, I decided to do just that. It was one of those warm, clear nights, perfect for relaxing outside. I grabbed a beer, my Bluetooth speaker, and settled into my hammock. It was probably around 9 p.m. Everything was normal at first. The cicadas were making their usual racket, and I was just vibing to some music. After a while, I noticed something weird. The cicadas went silent, like completely silent. If you live in Texas, you know that's not normal. I paused the music, trying to listen. I figured maybe a predator was nearby or something. Then I heard it. It was like a rustling sound coming from the bushes at the edge of my yard. At first, I thought it was a raccoon or some other small animal. But then the rustling got louder, and I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned on my phone's flashlight and pointed it toward the bushes. That's when I saw it. A small animal? Person? I don't know, maybe about 3 feet tall, standing just outside the light's reach. It was humanoid, but looked off. It had this weird, wrinkled face, almost like an old man, but its eyes were big and dark. It was wearing these raggedy clothes, and its skin had a greenish tint. I froze. My brain was trying to process what I was seeing. It looked like one of those duendes my abuela used to tell me about when I was a kid. I always thought they were just creepy fairy tales. But here it was, right in front of me. The duende stared at me for what felt like forever. I didn't move, didn't make a sound. Finally, it turned and disappeared back into the bushes. I sat there, my heart pounding, trying to make sense of it. I thought about grabbing my phone to take a picture, but it was too late. Besides, who would believe me? I didn't sleep much that night. The next day, I told my friend Carlos about it. He's really into paranormal stuff and said I probably saw a duende. He told me they're known to show up in places like Texas, especially around people of Latin descent. Since then, I've been more cautious when I'm outside at night. I haven't seen the duende again, but I keep thinking about that encounter. I don't know what it wanted or why it was there, but it felt like it was watching me, studying me. I don't know if any of you have had similar experiences, but if you're ever in Texas and hear the cicadas go quiet, be careful. There might be something watching you from the shadows. I'm just your average dude, early 20s, finishing up college while working part-time at a 24-hour convenience store in a small town in Ohio. Yeah, I know, sounds like the setup for a bad horror movie, right? But trust me, what happened to me last month was something out of a nightmare, and I haven't been able to shake it off since. It was a Saturday night, and my shift started at 11 p.m. Usually the nights are dead. That night I had a feeling something was off. I can't explain it, but you know that gut feeling you get when something just isn't right? Yeah, that. So, around 1 a.m., this guy walks in. He's in his late 30s, looks kind of rough, like he's been through some stuff. He grabs a couple of energy drinks, comes to the counter, and asks if we sell any maps of the area. Weird, right? Who uses paper maps anymore? But whatever. I showed him where they were, and he bought one. Before he left, he leaned in and said, "Stay safe tonight, kid. There are things out there you don't want to mess with." Then he walked out into the night. I laughed it off, thinking he was just some crazy dude trying to spook me. But as the night went on, things got weirder. Around 2:30 a.m., I noticed this strange, low hum coming from outside. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but it kept getting louder. I went to the window, peeking through the blinds, and saw this flickering light in the distance. It wasn't a car, and it definitely wasn't any streetlight. It was coming from the woods across the street. My heart started pounding, but I wasn't about to go investigate. I'm not that dumb. Around 3 a.m., I heard a loud bang on the back door, like someone or something was trying to break in. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, which was a mop. Real helpful, I know. And slowly made my way to the back. The door was shaking like crazy. I decided to call the cops, but as soon as I reached for my phone, the banging stopped. Everything went dead silent, except for the hum. I was sweating bullets, my hands were shaking, but I forced myself to look through the small window in the back door. What I saw still haunts me. There was this creature, I guess you could call it, standing just outside the door. It was tall, like over 7 feet, with long-ass limbs and skin that looked like it was stretched too tight over its bones. Its eyes were glowing like a cat's eyes at night. I backed away slowly, trying not to make a sound. The creature just stood there, staring. Then, without warning, it let out this high-pitched screech that made my ears ring. I bolted back to the front of the store, locked myself in the office, and called the cops. They showed up about 20 minutes later, but by then, the creature was gone. They looked around, found nothing, and basically told me I was just seeing things. But I know what I saw. For the rest of my shift, I stayed locked in the office, occasionally peeking out to make sure it wasn't coming back. When my shift finally ended at 7 a.m., I ran to my car and drove home as fast as I could. I didn't sleep at all that day, just sat in my room thinking about what happened. Since that night, I've quit my job at the convenience store and moved in with a friend in a different part of town. I still get that gut feeling sometimes, like something's watching me, but I haven't seen the creature again. I hope I never do. So yeah, that's my story. Believe me or not, I just needed to get it off my chest. Stay safe out there.